Okay, so now I will give the floor to André Hoffmann, which is member of the open access team at the main library at the University of Zurich. He is an open science advocate in the EU-funded project OpenAire 2020 and support the construction of a national research data management support infrastructure in the lifecycle management project, a Swiss project. Okay, so please, André, the floor is yours.
So thank you, Francesco, for the great introduction. Good morning, everyone. Give me just a moment to set myself up here. So I'm going to talk about the Swiss features of data management planning, which doesn't mean there's a specific Swiss data management plan, of course. So this title could be a little bit misleading. So what I'm talking about is basically how you can get support in Switzerland for data management planning. Well, I said there's no data management plan for Switzerland at the moment, but there's going to be one probably from next year onwards. So the Swiss National Science Foundation is planning on a data management planning obligation for applications. This is going to be interesting, and this is some kind of stick, of course, maybe for some researchers to provide this plan, although it has a lot of benefits, which I will show you later on. But we as a project, the OpenAire project, we understand ourselves as the necessary support infrastructure to support all the researchers who have to deal with data management planning now and in the future. And of course, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the data lifecycle management project in Switzerland as well. That is a complementary initiative to support researchers on a national and institutional level. So I'm going to give you just a really brief overview over the OpenAire project, and then we'll continue with the Horizon 2020 policies about open data and data management planning. And after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about data management planning and how you can get support for that. So OpenAire is basically the open access infrastructure for research in Europe. Like we started in 2009 building up a network of repositories, of open access repositories that are interlinked, interconnected, and able to exchange publications, open access publications with each other and with the OpenAire portal. See the link down there, openaire.eu. It's basically an aggregator that collects all the open access publications, data, and other research information from EU-funded and other projects in order to make them more visible on the internet and discoverable in the long run. Then we continued after the initial phase of OpenAire with OpenAire Plus and thought a lot about open data and open data management. And with the Open Research Data pilot, we can fully use those skills in order to help researchers. So basically, we are a rather big project now, like 50 partners in all, like data centers, universities, libraries, different repositories and data communities that help to support Horizon 2020 policies. Specifically, we still support, of course, the open access mandate in Horizon 2020. We also support open access publications from FP7 projects. So if you still have a publication from an already finished FP7 project, there's funding for that as well in order to increase the open access rate of those publications. I included a link there. The OpenAire project just released the data of funding of open access publications online as an open data set. So you can browse through this database and just look up how much money is left still. So I assume there's enough money still in the pot. So that's kind of interesting. And the project, this pilot project, is going to end early next year. So then we will find out what the best way will be to deal with APCs in the future, maybe even in Horizon 2020. What's more interesting at the moment, of course, is the Open Research Data Pilot. As Francesco mentioned, all of the projects, like most of the projects, are going to have to deal with that. And what OpenAire offers, it's just a short overview what we do. Like, we offer open access repository, so data has to be published somewhere according to the data pilot. So we're offering that. We are offering better tools to make data available that is maybe not suitable for open data, like personal data. So we are offering an anonymization tool, for example, to make it easier to share this data as well. And of course, we have the OpenAire portal with a lot of information, with research project information, all the publications that are linked to that. And what we are going to develop for next year is different dashboards for different stakeholders, like project coordinators, for example. So they can do their reporting over OpenAire, so to say. I'll just give you an overview of that. So this is basically the OpenAire content at the moment. So we have 17 million unique publications in it, and some of them are linked to projects. So this is a hard business to collect all this information, because we have to do a lot of text and data mining in order to be able to link publications to their projects, unless they are linked already through the open access repositories, for example. We are, so to say, a provider for the European Commission now in order to make their research outputs or the outcomes of all the projects visible and findable. But not only for the European Commissions, we have 5 other funders already. There are more funders in the future, like the SNF is going to be another funder that will be available on the portal as well. So what we do right now is we export all the publications that are linked to projects to different databases of the European Commission, that is Cordis and the participant portal, which makes life a little bit easier for all the researchers who have to deal with the reporting and have to mark what publications are open access and what publications are not open access, for example. So over the via the OpenAire portal, you find an app box, for example, and you can include the publications on your project's website quite easily. And it is, of course, updated as soon as new publications from the project appear in an open access repository that is linked to OpenAire. And of course, the publications are findable on the portal, Cordis portal as well. And as I said, on the participant portal, which makes reporting a little bit easier. Of course, we are working on including the data publications in the future as well. So this is just one example of what we are doing. As I said, it's quite a big project, and there's a lot going on in the field of open science, or not only open access to publications and data, but also in open peer review, for example. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. So as I said, Zenodo is one of our best products at the moment. I have to say, it's a cost-free data repository. It's not an institutional or subject-specific repository, of course. So it's a catch-all repository that allows you to just deposit publications, data in different formats online, makes the data fair. I'm going to talk about FAIR principles a little bit later, but it's quite a useful tool, because you can, at the moment, deposit data there for free at large amount. It's all saved at the CERN data center, stored at the CERN data center, and they offer, so to say, a long-term preservation strategy as well. So the data is safe. You can assign additional object identifier with it, which makes it citable. And what's new is that you also can share closed data or restricted access data. So it's not necessary to publish all the data as open data, but you also can share specific data sets that need certain condition for access, for example. This is just an example of a data set on Zenodo. It's a rather small. I hope you can read that. I'll just make it a little bit bigger here. So what you will find is the DOI, which is really important, of course. You find the link to the project. You find a machine readable license here, so it's clear how you can reuse the data set. And in the description of the data sets, you find a documentation link, so how it is possible to reuse the data or make a replication of a study, for example. So all in all, I'm just inviting you to go to the OpenAire portal and check out all the information there. There's a lot of information about the Open Research Data Pilot, of course, about creating data management plans, and so on and so on. So be invited to just have a look there. I included a link to the FAQs. That's from another webinar of OpenAire with a lot of information about critical questions you might have. So back to the Horizon 2020 Open Research Data Pilot. As Francesco already mentioned, it's still a pilot, but from next year onwards, all the projects have to basically deposit their research data in a repository as open as possible. But what does open mean? So it has to be accessed, it should be able to be mined, exploited, reproduced, and disseminated free of charge for the user. So this is kind of important because there are a lot of different obstacles out there that prevent that from happening. So the straightforward solution to achieve openness for datasets is basically Creative Commons zero license, which is a public domain, or a CC BY license, of course. So this would be the optimum, at least. So it's everything in the pilot, I have to say at this point, is a best effort approach. So nobody will be punished for not applying all the theoretical goals to their data, but it's kind of important goal, of course, and it would be nice if it would be the best effort of everyone to comply with those conditions. So, of course, the costs are eligible for data management, especially for open data publication. So that includes the storage of data and a bit the data management itself as well. Concerning long-term preservation, that's still a tricky part because it's almost, for most providers, it's unclear how long-term is and how much costs are involved. So this is another interesting topic that is dealt with in the data lifecycle management project on a national level. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. So there's an opt-out option as well. So data should be as open as possible, but close as necessary. But when there is data that is not suitable for open data, projects just have to state why they want to opt out. They can opt out partially, just for a certain set of data, or they can opt out completely out of the pilot. So they don't even have to really think about data management planning at that point. Of course, everybody is doing data management planning to a certain degree, but not as the European Commission might ask for. So one of the top reasons in the first half year of the pilot in Horizon 2020 were privacy concerns, intellectual property rights, or releasing all the data might jeopardize the project's main objective. Especially in emerging and future technologies, of course, it might be a problem to just publish all the information the project produced. So, what should be preserved? Like I said, I talked about what is open, but what exactly has to be open in the project? So, As a minimum, the data that is needed to validate results in a scientific publication, so the underlying data of a publication should be published as open data. Plus, the associated metadata has to be published as well in order to make it findable on the internet, for example, just to be able to understand what's in the data, like to have a certain amount of documentation in the metadata as well. I just included a short link to a really good metadata directory for reference. So the Research Data Alliance offers a registry for just checking out domain-specific metadata standards, just in case you're interested in finding out more about this. So I talked about documentation. So codebooks, lab journals, informed consent forms are necessary as well in order to understand the data, in order to be able to reproduce the data maybe, or just to reuse the data. And software might be a tricky part here. So software, hardware, tools, of course, machine configurations. It's the optimum if that could be shared as well. There, of course, license limitation that limits the inclusion of software, for example, in many cases. So just if that's not possible as an alternative, it's maybe important to just include the information about the software that was used in order to be better able to reuse the data set itself. So basically everything that is needed to replicate a study should be available online and as open data if possible. And now we come to this data management plan, which is really important, although some say it's probably not that important because the plan itself is not important when it disappears in a drawer, but it's very essential that you plan ahead. Of course, it's probably nothing new for most of you, but I find it kind of revealing that that this plan could or can be so important for a project. I will just explain what a data management plan is. It's basically really just a brief plan that defines which data will be created in the project, how data will be documented, who will be able to access the data or who will not be able to access the data, where the data will be stored, who will back it up. So responsibilities is a topic here. So who's going to be responsible? Who am I going to ask where the data is when it's like after the project, for example? And last but not least, whether and how data will be shared and preserved. That means there's a big component or big importance of the data management during the project, but even after the project. So after the project, the data management plan becomes, so to say, a map to the data that has been stored and that has been curated and preserved. So this is kind of important to make sure that this data management plan is available as open data as well. That's not a standard yet. So not every project is going to publish its data management plan for some reasons, but this is an important aspect, I think. So keep that in mind, maybe. So the data management plan basically just covers all the steps in the data lifecycle, so to say, or the data management lifecycle. So from creation of the data, of a documentation, to access and reuse, to storage, sharing as open data, and preservation, everything should be covered more or less in this plan, in this overview. And in the end, a DMP helps you to stay up to date about the essential steps of managing data, of course. You can base important decisions on well-informed choices early on in the project. So this is a tip for every data management planning approach. Start as early as possible, of course. Budget is an issue in every data management plan as well. So you have to plan ahead in order to allocate the appropriate amount of resources for data management and data storage and long-term preservation as well. So the DMP helps you, again, to store the data safely, share data for reuse. You can maybe get better credit for your data because you're better able to publish data papers. So not only just publish your data in a repository, but also write a paper about your data in the repository, which can attract more citations. There are a lot of studies at the moment that try to find out if there's a correlation between the publication of data or data papers and the citation rate of normal publications that are based on that data. So there's a positive correlation, obviously, in some areas. So all in all, it's a perfect tool, I'd say, to save time, because well-documented and organized data is better findable, accessible, and so on. So you can even find your own data better, or find the data of your consortium partners better during the project. Maybe you have more ideas when you have a better overview of your data assets in the project. So I just mentioned it's probably better findable, accessible, and that brings me to the FAIR guiding principles. I have to say at this point there has been some criticism about those FAIR principles in Horizon 2020 now, because a lot of people assume that this is a common or guaranteed standard already, so that everybody knows exactly what is meant by the 4 principles, but that's not quite true. Like it's meant as a guidepost for making data or achieving a better data quality, like the good data management. So it's more a tool to assess the quality of data, and not a goal that has to be reached at any case in any case. So it's really just a guidance. So don't worry if you cannot apply all the principles on your data. That's probably not possible in every case. But as I said in Horizon 2020, in the pilot at the moment, it's the best effort approach. So nobody will kill you when it's not fair enough or so. So what does it mean, fair? So it's just findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. I just try to find, in this case, the simplest definitions of those terms. So it's not complete, of course, but it's rather simple. So we'll just try to explain this a little bit more in detail. So findable means, of course, it's easy to find over the internet by both humans and computer systems. So machine readable links and like settings is something that is very important, of course, for the FAIR principles. So especially in data-driven science, it's a major importance to have machine readable information, so that it can be harvested and compared more easily than in the past, maybe. So what is, of course, important for findability is that there's enough metadata in order to understand what's inside the data set. And findable means also that there are persistent identifiers, like, for example, a DOI, so that I can like cite the data and find it again when it's cited somewhere. Accessible means the data just should be stored for long term, such that they can be easily accessed or downloaded with well-defined license and access conditions. What's more is, I mentioned documentation as well beforehand. So documentation is part of the accessible guiding post as well. So data will be more accessible when it is known how you can reuse it, how it was produced, what software I need in order to read it again, for example. Interoperable is probably the most tricky part, because it defines how datasets can be combined when they are from completely different disciplines, for example. So the datasets have to be machine readable. They have to be in an open, non-proprietary format. Like, this resembles a lot the 5-star rating of Tim Berners-Lee, if you are familiar with that. So it's all about being able to annotate the data in the same way in different disciplines in order to be better able to compare data sets. Not only maybe between different disciplines, but also within different disciplines, of course. So this is probably the most expensive and time-consuming and difficult part, I'd say, about the FAIR principles. So as I said, it's just a best effort, but it's worth thinking about a better open formats in the future to store your data in, maybe. So reusable is basically just the outcome of F, A, and I. So the data becomes more reusable and less reuseless when you just apply the principles above. So when they are findable, accessible, and interoperable. Like that's not a really good definition at the moment. It's still in development for reusable, but at this point I have to say you could define reusable as well with just stating a clear user license so that reusers know how they are able to reuse the data. So if you want to find out more about the FAIR principles that are really important, of course, at the moment in the data management plan, in the pilot, just follow the links underneath the principles. There's a really good paper as well. I included the citation down there just for reference. So just check this out. This is really good. Of course, there are a lot of guidelines from the European Commission directly. So this is just a collection of the links. This is just an overview of the themes in the DMP template the European Commission offers. It's just an offering, so you don't have to really write a data management plan according to those themes. You can just invent your own theme if it's more appropriate maybe for your data project. But it basically covers the main themes that are necessary to explain your project. So of course you have to, what I said, think about the allocation of resources for your data management, your storage and the long-term preservation. And if ethical aspects are important for the project as well, this should be included in the data management plan as well. What helps a lot though is open tools for writing data management plans. So DMP Online is a really well-known tool at the moment. There's another tool from the United States, the DMP tool, which is really good too, but we would recommend to use DMP Online because the Digital Curation Center is part of OpenAire as well. So they developed this tool from for a long time now. So they included a lot of nice features that help you writing a data management plan according to the FAIR principles as well. So this is a really small image of the actual tool. What's important is that, as I said, a data management plan is kind of useless when it's not used. At this point, the tool offers 3 different steps of the data management plan. So there's an initial data management plan, which doesn't have to be complete after 6 months in the project. So you should publish that as a deliverable after 6 months. So this is just probably a data management plan that is not complete, that maybe misses some of the questions, guiding questions. But there's going to be a midterm review DMP deliverable and a final review DMP deliverable. So you have time during the project to develop your data management plan and discuss that with your peers and your support infrastructure, your local support infrastructure. Another feature is that you can share the data management plan with all your colleagues, or you can even share your data management plan with the public, of course. And you can export it, of course, for the reporting. So this is just some of the features in an overview. This is a section about the FAIR principles. You get guiding questions, so what you should think about when applying those FAIR principles. So what is important for the data? So where can it be found, where it's going to be deposited, will the data be open access or not? Will the data be stored in an open data format? And what are the licenses for reusability, for example? So this can be a little bit tricky. I counted more than 30 questions on just this part. So in total, in the whole data management plan, you have to deal with, I think, in between 35 and 39 questions. But they are guiding questions, so they guide you through the process. So it's not about answering questions. It's just to help you to think about what's necessary for good data management. So this is just a reminder for me a little bit what is important about writing a data management plan for Horizon 2020. But I think I mentioned everything. The last part should be a little bit bigger, and for some reason it's smaller, but it's very important. So a data management plan is teamwork, of course. So it doesn't make sense to write it on your own because at your institution or on a national level, or even the OpenAire project, they help you with writing the data management plans. You just seek advice and consult with your local support staff, or just contact OpenAire in order to get advice for writing data management planning, or if you have special questions about a certain point, you can come to us as well, of course. So I was just told that I have 5 minutes left, so we probably need 10 more. But here are just some examples on Zenodo of actual data management plans, so you can have a look and compare your plan maybe, or just retrieve some hints how you should write the data management plan. There are more examples, of course. Tissue Curation Center in Scotland has a bunch of examples that you can use as well. Of course, we, as I said, on the portal offer a lot more support as well. Like at the moment, we are working on an export to Zenodo feature from the DMP online tool directly to Zenodo. So it makes it easier to share the DMP and assign a DOI to it. So the data lifecycle management project that I mentioned in the beginning is really important for all this. Of course, I said there's going to be a data management planning initiative from the SNSF next year. There's the Open Research Data Pilot with data management planning. So OpenAire has been quite alone in the past with that task. So I'm really happy to be able to work with a lot of colleagues now in order to make data management planning a good experience for everybody. So with this network of different institutions in Switzerland, we are able to provide more support on national level, of course, and on a institutional and local level. So there are a couple of goals, of course, in the DLCM project. So one of them is providing guidance and tools. So we just started or launched a DLCM portal, dlcm.ch, which provides a lot of information about data management in general and data management planning. And you can find useful tools for data management in your project. And you can give feedback for tools, for example. So if you have a really good tool you want to share, you can share it on dlcm.ch as well. So just check out the webpage, please. And we are thinking about support for active data management. So if you really need help with the analysis of data or the midterm storage of huge amounts of data, we are going to provide the necessary tools in cooperation with the local science support ITs, of course. And we are going to launch long-term preservation solutions for all researchers in Switzerland. So if you're in need of a long-term preservation archive where you want to store your data for the long term, like from 10 years to more than 10 years, so it's unclear how long it's going to be, but like universities and libraries that are involved in this process have a very long lifetime compared to commercial platforms. There are a lot of providers, of course, out there who provide data storage for data as well, but for them they don't really have a long-term preservation strategy. So this is kind of difficult maybe to put the data there because it's unclear how long the data will be saved there. So this is going to be a big national initiative to make sure the data will be available in the future and will be readable and accessible in the future as well. So as I said, check out the portal, please. We are going to introduce DMP Online Tool Switzerland next year, probably. There's some concern about the performance of DMP Online. With those, as I said, 35 to 39 questions, it can become a little bit slow. So this is one of the reasons why we are providing our own tool, probably, just to be able to improve it a little bit for our local support teams and researchers. So this is was just a really really short overview of DLCM. I have some colleagues online today that might answer questions concerning the DLCM project as well. So I invite Anna to to be active in the chat as well if you want to. So this slide is a little bit doesn't look right anymore, but I hope you can read it. So at the moment, there are, of course, existing consulting services in Switzerland. So like researchers at the ETH in Zurich and the EPFL, they have a team of supporters who can support them with a data management plan, can support them with data management itself. So they have a really good staff there. So just contact them if you need help with, especially with your OpenAire data management plan as well. And of course, I just read the question. So we are working, we're not really working together with Force, I have to say, but they provide their own data and research information service. So they provide advice and guidance and training for data management planning as well in the social sciences. So this is quite fortunate that they have a long tradition of expertise in this field. So this is not what we cover, but they cover it very well. And of course, this is just a starting point. All the other institutions that are part of the DSM project are going to provide more support in the future as well for data management and data management planning. And especially they will provide support and training for all the other institutions that maybe don't have the funds to provide a service for themselves as well. So my last slide, just check out the OpenAire blog for more information about what we do in open science. Of course, there's more to open science than just open data and open access. But this is kind of an interesting development at the moment. Everything open science. So just go to our blog and yeah, thanks for listening. I hope there are a lot of questions.
Okay, thank you very much, André, for this very nice and detailed presentation. We will take maybe the first question, which is from the regional office and contact point Zurich, where the first question is access possible for researchers in companies and other organizations which are not necessarily within the university? I guess it's the access to the DLCM and other platform you've shown.
It's all open, so all the information should be open for everyone. So it doesn't matter if it's in a company or a different commercial organization. So the information is for everyone. So I think we don't really want certain groups not to take part in this. So this is kind of important, of course, especially in Horizon 2020 projects where a lot of SMEs are included as well, that they have an incentive, of course, to publish their information as open as possible as well.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Andreas Binkert from ZHHW. who is asking if are you also supporting researchers at the universities of applied science directly, for example, ZHAW or HESSO, or should they use their own libraries?
Of course, we try to support all researchers, especially in the OpenAire project. So everybody is welcome. So just ask us, come to us and ask all the questions you have. In the DLCM project, we of course offering the services to everybody as far as that is possible. Like at the moment, like the support services I mentioned at the ETH and EPFL, they're probably just for their researchers, as far as I know. But at the moment, we in the OpenAire project, we are of course working together with everyone in Switzerland. And I didn't stress that enough. So it's just, of course, not me in the OpenAire project. We are 33 national open access desks in all the EU member states and beyond. So we are basically a rather big team to give support to questions like that.
Thank you. The next question is, again, similar to previously, is can non-academic organization, I mean private sectors, industries or SMEs or startup, also use the data storage facilities you were mentioning, and are they for free?
Like you could use Zenodo for free at the moment. So of course, all the repositories have to think about a long-term strategy to finance data storage. It's not for free, of course, so it costs money to manage the data in the archive as well. But so far, everything that's open data will be for free. Restricted or closed data there might be a fee in the future. On the national level, like the DLCM project, we are still thinking about a business case for that. So I cannot really guarantee that it's going to be free for commercial providers. Yeah, this is something you can give feedback to us, to be honest. So, right, the DLCM project is an initiative to think about the possible options, and right now we are thinking about who might be interested in that service. So when SMEs or companies are interested in using that service, it would be really helpful to know about that at this point, because then we can talk about what you would need and what we could offer in return. So if you could just contact me directly, that would be perfect.
Okay, one question also is to know if you work together with the Force Center.
If you're working together with the Force Center. There is a contact at Force, like Anna just posted that in the chat. I cannot see it anymore at the moment, just let me see. So, but concerning your questions, we are not directly working with Force at the moment. And I cannot give you a reason for that, because they are a really extremely important competence center in the social sciences. So this is a part we should be aware of. Of course, we have certain people who are probably indirectly involved into the DLCM project. So, but thank you for the feedback. I guess we really need to get closer together and talk more to each other.
Okay, I think we answered all the questions which were asked there. Again, you have the contact information, so don't hesitate to contact us or contact OpenAire or André directly if you have further questions beyond the webinar. So before closing the webinar, I would just like to remind you that the webinar has been recorded, so you will find that on our YouTube channel. So it's a youtube.com/Euresearch, where we post the webinars we did 1 month ago, and also this webinar will be uploaded there. I would like also, and you will get, those of you who register for the webinar over our webpage or the event webpage, that means we have your email, so you will get the follow-up mail, you will get the slides which have been presented today. If you are not registered, just drop a mail to my mailbox of francesco.kinsley@euresearch.ch or info@euresearch.ch, and then we will send you the slides, of course. Then also big thank you for Romain for the technical assistance, and Nicole Wies, my colleague NCP here at Euresearch, for organizing the series on open data and open access. And before closing, also a pre-announcement that we'll probably be doing. We have booked a date, the 26th of October 2017, to do again an applicant training on open science and all the related issues. So please book the date for next year and keep in touch with us over or e-alert over the webpage so that you can get the proper information at the right moment. That's it. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope to see you soon, either in a webinar or on the applicant training. Thank you very much, and nice day.